Sham Mesech the Meister of Testament Aleph. The English was gives the Basabon Bashheim it's the Dovga Shheim Rabam Yitzchak. So the minute Bashai Yasser for Yerushalmי. The middle of the Yom Rabbi say. Ksiv. Steht Apostel in the Torah Kedosha Kisova become Esreyecha. This is the Poel is coming become Esreyecha. Is coming in the field to work for somebody else. Yochel. Maybe not only the poil is permitted to eat from the tuah or from the whatever he's working on. Maybe somebody else could also come and eat. Not only the poil. The one who has permission to work in the field, that's the worker. The worker has reshus to work in the field, so therefore he has reshus to eat from the payers that he's working on. It's a very interesting havamin in the Gemara. The havamin from the Gemara is that not only the payer has the permission to eat from the field that is being worked on, anybody can come and eat. Not verstehen, was this made? Why should somebody have reshus? Come down the Pnei Moshe. On the left side is.
Where we start from?
What?
When is it
you what? You Testament Aleph. You Testament Aleph in the middle of the Yomid. Ksiv. Du Haltman. Yisova Mikom Esreyecha. Yochel b'shakol odom hakosim b'damen tamalam yechem b'slei son v'akom b'seyecha sheish lo rishus l'hanef. The haman would be anybody come into the field and start eating from the payers of the field. Look to Pnei Moshe. Ksiv kisov v'akom b'seyecha k'taftem lilos b'yadecha. Yochel tamalam yechem b'slei son v'akom b'seyecha. One who has permission to work, he's the one that has permission to eat. Kegoyin. Look to Pnei Moshe. Poyel sheish lo rishus l'hanef b'shvil. He has the one to pick up and work in the field for the balabais. Uboy akosim medaber. Do retzach the posik bein der mensch, wer der mensch the poil. V'tzivsa ha'toyre shelo yonef l'tzorcha atzma b'shor shu meinav l'tzorcha balabais. He's not permitted to work for himself when he's working for the balabais. Shelo yibotel mimeleches habalabais. He's not permitted when he's working for the balabais to become botel from the melechas balabais. When is he permitted to eat? Is when he finishes the work for the balabais, then he's permitted to eat. Mishnah Gimel. What does it mean gemar malacha? Gemar malacha here, not the gemar malacha from the parents. Gemar malacha means the poil is finished his work for the day. Then he's permitted to eat from the payers that he worked during the daytime. When he's finished the work for the balabais, lunchtime is after the work of the day. He's not permitted to be mafsik from his malacha and sit down and eat. They're allowed to eat when they go from one balabais to the other balabais. Otherwise, they have to finish working, and when they finish working, then they're permitted to eat. That's the input of the Pnei Moshe, but the Gemara is basically saying there would be a havamin in the Gemara to say that everybody's allowed to eat from these payers. Those ain't been afulda. Yochel b'sha'akol, the first narrow line on the right side. She'einu poil b'sada zu hakosim medaber. So what he's emphasizing here, she'einu poil b'sada zu hakosim medaber. He's not a poil. He's not a worker for this particular field, but it appears that he's a poil of somebody else's field. Most health medos is a poil by Yemen's field. What's that thing? He's not eat by Reuben's field because he's a poil for Shimon's field. What does that mean? When he's working in this field, then he's allowed to eat. That's the shitta of the Tanakama. Someone's in the Rash Cerula. B'shakal Adam on the left side, 3 lines from the top. The Rash Cerula, B'shakal Adam HaKosa B'dava Afilu Einoi Schiroi. He's not particularly working for this Balabayas. He works for somebody else. U'perek HaPoyal in Parech L'shavak Isi Chayi L'chol Beya. What's Isi ben Yehuda? Let's see the next Gemara. The Gemara says that Isi ben Yehuda Akavia Oime B'shakal Adam HaKosa B'dava. It's not talking dafka with the Poyal. Somebody else could also eat. If that's the case, everybody could eat. V'chemes le'isonif mikan she'enu l'shus lechol el b'shas hanofes magel. He says you're only permitted to eat only b'shas hanofes magel when you're picking up the sickle to cut the tvur. If you're not picking up the sickle, you don't have reshus to pick up the sickle, you can't eat. Zok the Rasirila zay. B'shakalot ma'kosim medaba filein ischiroi. Another worker could also eat. That's the having in the Gemara. Peka poyal in parach. L'shavik isi chayi l'chol beya. U'makiloi boisim b'sidosan David v'yochel. Yeah, this was the minig. The minig was that all the workers would eat from the field at the same time, even though they didn't particularly eat from their balabais. Ad kidei hanofes magel. The dafke b'shas hanofes magel. When he picks up the sickle to cut the tvur, shepeseach pesach v'daita zocha olav v'mafkin. Then when he does that, so then the balabais allows the workers to eat. Looks like he's mafkid the tvur for them, and that's why he's allowed to give it. They're allowed to eat, even though it's not particularly his worker, but there are other workers there. So it seems that there's all bevuvya. So Mela Halt Isi ben Yehuda, all the piyalim allowed to eat when they have a nofas hamagal. Nofas hamagal means when he's cutting, everything is cutting. That's the head. That's mutter. So I took him out of weiter. Tani the B'Shim Ben Yechoy. It's interesting the Gemara does. B'Shim Ben Yechoy touched up the ganze relationship between the Poil and the Balabais. So we said yesterday, the day before yesterday, that the din is that the Paris, that the Poyalim are allowed to eat from the Paris. That's enough of a passing in the Torah, like those allowed to eat from the Paris, but it belongs to the Balabais, and he's meniach for the Peyam to eat. That's the Lashon from the Rambam. He's meniach, he lets them eat, but it belongs to him. Azoy Megleb Shat in the Rambam. Because it doesn't say yes to give it to them, it just he eats, the Poyalim eat from what the Balabais is letting them eat. So this could be Pshat here in the B'Shim Ben Yechoy. B'Shim Ben Yechoy, it looks like an agarata, but it's not. It's really touching up the relationship, the dim between the Poyel and the Balabais. Ad Eichen Didike Teure Begezel. Wie weit hat der Teure medaglich gewesen an Gezel? Shetzich Lodem ben Odem lechaveroi ad kidei hanofas magel. Einer mit zweite hanofas magel means you're allowed to eat, but you're not supposed to cut it with a sickle. You're not. What you take for yourself, that has to be only kidei achilosan. As much as you need for eating. When you take it with a magel, with a sickle, so what you're doing is you're cutting off much more than you need for your lunch. Lunch is only a bit of medaf by lunch. We can't shop messen with a magel, with a sickle. So the Torah says like this. It says, looking at here, the Rasirul brings. I'm sorry, the Torah Shalom in the left side brings the pasuk in the Torah. Kisava become a seriacha, the ktaftum lilos, and you're cutting the lilos, the tvur, biyadecha, v'chemas, and a sickle. That's a magel. Lo son of al kamas. You're not permitted to pick that up and use it as a kamas. What do you mean? When you're taking for yourself to eat, the food that you're taking for yourself, those tosnish nemen mit chemas. A chemas as a kli. Why not? Because when you're taking with a kli, this kli is not medagli b'fum medafom for essen. It's going to be much more. So that is gezel. So kick ass. So chadav dor amabel el bnei hagezel. So dor amabel. I'm sorry. Let's go back. I skipped the line. Even the difference between how much you take with your hand and you take with the magel, that difference of the tvur is gezer. So you're not permitted to do that. So you see how much the Torah was makbid on the issa of gezer is b'toich kain gedoyle melacha. Nonetheless, melacha, doing melacha, now the Gemara is explaining here what is the mila of a person not being about not going shumim. Batala maybe they shumim. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says in Ksubis, Isha shenechnas alabayla afila el shvachas. She has to some malacha she has to do because Batala maybe they shumim. So this is the same concept here. But malacha is a very important thing. A person should be occupied with malacha. Favos. Shaloicharav dor hamabul el mipnei hagezel. The reason why dor hamabul mipnei chomas. The chomas was the one. The gezel was the one that sealed the fate of the dor hamabul. Upoyel oisib b'malachtoi. But a poyel who has to do work, the Torah says you got to do work. If you're not going to do work, and because he's doing the malach, he's doing the work, and he's allowed to work, who put him in a gezel. Says put him in a gezel. This poil is working in the field, and the Torah was mezakeh him to eat from the balabayis. Why? Because he has to work. You have to work. You can't say I'm not going to work. The person has to work. So because he has to work, so the Torah was mezakeh him with what the Torah here calls gezel. Put him in a gezel. He's put him in a gezel. What says he's put him in a gezel? What says he's put him in a gezel? Look to Pnei Moshe Hazai. Yiseh ben Akiva oime. Dakasa b'mashmoy v'shakal odem hu medaber. V'chemes le'son le'borda l'ameshem lo reshus l'chol odem le'echel mikom esayachad. The Tanna Kama holds that you're not permitted to go into the field el b'shah al gofas makel, only at the time when the cutting is happening. Then you're allowed to take from the balabayis for yourself for the food. You can't go there before they take off. In other words, he's letting you allowed to take the magal, but you're only allowed to do it b'shas when it comes to the season of harvesting, when they're cutting the tfuah. Shuhu achemes l'tzayder chabal hakom. So that's right. So the gis is a little bit different. So we're reading it. His gis that he has the Pnei Moshe. The Torah was medagdik begezel. Shetzich lodim ben odem lechavela. Gezel between Reuven and Shimon. B'torich kain ad kedei nofas magal. It was made even much as the nofas magal. What does that mean? Sheichad of dora mabel b'nei hagezel. Gedol the melacha shepoy loisim melachta goichul potem in hagezel. Somebody who's eating from the field. B'shas he's working for the balabayis. He's potem in gezel. What does that mean? Kain nidus. Sorach loim bebraisa k'zei that's it. A few words here are changed from the Gemara. Look how much the Torah was medaydik in Gezel. As was the Dor Mabul was nichtam gzadina because of Gezel. So you see the chomer of Gezel, the ganze Welt is chorer geworden because of Gezel. Nonetheless, shetzorach lodim ben adol chaveira of Gezel. Shekpida Torah shalilechem medover shachavei ad kedei shas hanofas hamagel. You can't eat until it comes the time of the hanofas hamagel when the ksida comes, and then you're permitted to eat. Or because of the gezer, which is so chamer, nonetheless, b'ketoich kach gedoy lemelacha kloima the metoich kach atalomid gamkein kama gedoy lemelacha. We invite this choshev that a person should be oiseh b'yeshuva shaloydam. It should be oiseh b'malacha, and it shouldn't be like you say, a poil bottle. The Dor Mabul was destroyed. And the final psak was al shar avedas, not because of znus, not because of other avedas. But zara, nay, ela ad mipnei hagezel, mipnei hachomas. As I said in the Torah. Hine nishchasa, the Gemara says, mola or it's chomas. As I said, the pasuk in the Torah. So that was the gzadinam. Nonetheless, upoyel zeu siyum l'masha migdol l'malacha. What is migdol l'malacha? Kloima she'ata roya. You see, the imkol zeh, even though the issa of chomas is so strong, is so chomer, that they b'shot vernichten the ganze Welt wegen the chomas. Kol zeh ha'tira ha'toyre l'poyel lechel. The Torah allowed the poil to eat from the food of the balabayis, who put them in a gezel. There's no issue of gezel. In other words, you can eat a little bit more, you can eat a little bit less. They're stuck in gezel. So this is very geschmack. The way we learned the other day, that what do we learn, Pshat? That the balabayis is miniach the poil to eat from his, A lot of medicine for Zaina. What says a lot of medicine for Zaina? The Torah said you have to eat from the Balabayas. It belongs to the Balabayas. Now the Torah is mezaka you to him, and the Gemara of Shimon Yechoy is saying, "Das heißt gegessen from Gezel." The Torah was mata Gezel here. That's basically what it is. But the Torah goes up. Nish the pshat is you have to give it to the poil. Nish the pshat is it belongs to the poil because of his work. The pshat is it belongs to the Balabayas. And the far haste is as if it's a Gezel. No, the Torah mata the Gezel. Do it mata gewesen the Gezel. Das steht da im Shimon Yechoy. He came kam gedei the Melocha. Wie weit is gedei the Melocha? Ad kedei kach that the Torah was mata you to eat from the Balabayas. It belongs to the Balabayas. And this is the pshat. What was saying the was? Yeah, you can't say touching it. Yeah, Torah was mad at this. Torah was mad at this. But this is the bottom I say, but it belongs to the Balabais. Therefore, state the Klo in the Gemara that this belongs to the Balabais. The Torah was mad at it. If the pshat is that the Balabais has an obligation to give it to the poil because Abed for him, just like you have to pay him the wages, you have to pay him also for the food for the work for the food that he has to eat. Then it wouldn't be this is Avura Moida because of his avoid. He's entitled to take the food. And it belongs to the poil. No, the state the Torah was matter altogether. What says the Gezel? The Torah is mechayiv the Balabais to let the poil eat it. Those state it belongs to the Balabais. I'm saying the Merafulda. Rishus lehenef hu poil. Shuhu koitz b'atu b'sad haChavera el b'shas hanofes magel b'shas hakotzi mutu l'chol adam lichtav lilas. A person is allowed to take b'shas when they're doing the ksira. Yes, Dr. B'Shim Beichoi ad eichon. Until when? Kol kach didika Torah al gezel. The Torah was medagdik on gezel v'hezira shalayon of magel al malilas chavera. Torah says even though the poor is allowed to work, but you now take it with a kli. In the Torah, v'katafta melilos biyodecha. In the pasuk. Biyodecha means without the magel. Why can't you use a magel? Because you can use a magel, you're going to take too much. Torah was not matter that. Only as much as you need for lunch. It doesn't fit. Even though he's taking it with his hands, not with the magel, the ktif is considered malacha gedola, but yaktiv kol kach gemoy b'anofas magel. Shechamura himiyoid. Magel is very chomer. That's the din for gezel. Shleichorev dirsiv ki melei it's chomes. Oh, the posik for chomes. What says chomes? Hainu gezel. V'afili nonetheless, the Torah was makbid on chomes. That is the story like Ansevelt. Ob man vernichten wegen der chomes. Afili ochi poil sheoise b'melachdei. Arabetu was arbet mit seinem meloche oichel. And make essen, who put them in a gezel, the shocking gezel, you can't come. See the pshat is a ice from the balabais, or the pshat can zong a feel you took off too much, it's a hand, it's not kedei achilosai, whatever it is, although the Lashon HaGemara is, the Torah was matter by a poil the gezel when it comes to this achila. Zog the Rash Srila. B'shakal od makos v'daber. I feel the half minute from the Gemara word. I feel ain't schiroi. Okay. At kedei anofes magel, the daf could b'shas anofes magel. You could only eat b'shas when the people are cutting the tvur. Shepeseach posa b'daita zocha ola b'mafke. So elen to aknei shabavda anayin nochazach. Why is another person allowed to eat? Except Yisi Yehuda holds no, it has to be only a poil. But what's out the Tanakama? Another person who's out there in the tvur b'shas when they're making tzira, why is he allowed to also eat? What's a mechit in his head? The essen he had in the tvur for Reuben. He doesn't work for Reuben. He works for Shimon. We can't have essen by Reuben. Zikta Mirasharila, the dafke b'shas anos magel should say a Pesach b'daita zocha olav umafkim. So come to Azman when you make the tvur, you're cutting the tvur. Everybody's in a good mood because now you worked the whole year, 6 months or a year, depending on what kind of pays there are, and you had to water it, and you had to take care of it, and plow it, and plant it, so on. It's you're reaping the reward of the ganze Arbeit. But so look, everybody can come eat, no problem. Yeah, they can essen. So it says even not a poil could also eat. So you see that this, if you learn like Isa ben Yehuda, that it's not only the poil, somebody else could also eat. So that doesn't belong to the poil. Zichur belongs to the balabais. And the Torah was mezakim to eat even not his work, not his balabais. There's another person's tefua. You could also eat any tefua on the field. Yes, Dr. Shimei Chayazai. Hochi Gasina. Gedoi the Malacha is a great zach. Sheloi chorev dor hamabel elef bnei shelo yehoyu oisin, because they were not oisik. The way his guess is his Hochi Gasina, right? The dor hamabel were not oisik b'malacha. V'noflu b'gezer b'nei shelo yehoyisen shelo yehoyu oisin malacha. They didn't do it. They lied the guys. They were lied the guys. And oisik b'yeshuva shelo. This is a Masachet B'Kuvia. These are people that are not trustworthy. So he said the reason why the Dora Mabul came to such a massive that it was Mola Ois Chomes, Veis Favos, because they were not Oisik B'Malacha. The Siv Achakach, Oid Kayimeha Ore Zera B'Kotze. What does that mean? Zera B'Kotze. But the Chuma Gorish Lo Yehoyi Zoyden, there's a Medrash Tanchuma, and it says like this. It's a fascinating thing. At that time, they used to plant once in 40 years. Once in 40 years. The tefua lasted for 40 years. You planted once, that's it. You're free. No more to work. You had enough food for 40 years. And because the Dor didn't work, and then so what happened? Ba'atu. Then they went against the Rebbeinu Shloim. V'naflu begezel, and they were oisik now in gezel. Kidasiv v'tumale oretz chametz. What brought the chametz? Zokta b'shimei chai the malacha. They didn't do malacha because they didn't do malacha. So mela obz in ishketon vas. They were oisik now in gezel, and they didn't have to work b'chlad. They had so much money because he planted it once for 4 years. I laid it. We got the answer mezoynis. So they the day from the middle. So the mom is nothing to do. So instead of being happy, they didn't have anything to do. They were oisik in Gaza. This is mom is the word the Tata Flexing dot. A boy right came by Mayim. I'm the Choshen Akram Yesh boy. How does the Torah know? How does Rashi know? Rashi brings this message. How does he know that with Choshen Akram? A boy right came by Mayim. Shtuk and Torah. You do the Choshen Akram. Or the hair other him. Or the Torah. Or the Choshen Akram. Leidik in Shtuk. A boy right came by Mayim. But that means it's the Choshen Akram. That's mamish what this Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying because they didn't have any work, they were bottom in malacha. So the lighty guys, bottom they were oisik in gezel instead of that. So maybe this is the Torah makbid gewesen ad kedei kach that the machshib malacha, even though this is a malacha, the Gemara calls it that the Torah was matter the gezel for malacha, because when you're doing eating from the balabais, it's anything from gezel, but the Torah was matter this gezel. Why? Because the Rebbeinu Shloim didn't want, the Torah HaKadosh didn't want the person should be bottom malacha. Nish, ting go nish, do so nish getoik. The Raif and the Middle, you don't have to do anything. You have to work once in 40 years. You had to work and that's it. Do so nish getoik. Zit the Gemara weiter.
Gezel there was for Jakut, no?
What?
Gezel there was for Jakut, the Gemara says.
Yeah. In Poshavut. Yeah. But Adin Akim is for the Poshavut. Now, we spoke about the other day, it's a longer Gemara, but here the Gemara was medayik before by Daesh. Like Sakshan Shor B'Dishoy, that's the Daesh. And Shteit B'Komes Riyecha, this part of Komes Riyecha, so the Gemara learned out from Daesh, just like it says, like Sakshan Shor B'Dishoy, my Daesh, Yuchid, many things we learn out to the din of Poyalim, you learn out from Sakshan Shor B'Dishoy. Even though he pointed out over here, the notes over here in the article, he brings up Chaim the Baimila, whatever it is, but Al-Kaponim said, what's Hotzatin the Shor B'Dishoy with the Payalim? And the Gemara says, Ma Dayish, on top of the Yom, New Testament, Dayish, Miyuchid, Shigedulim Minoris. Afkol, Shigedulim Minoris. You know, the Payalim allowed to eat only from things that grow from the ground. Yotza, Achoyle, V'amagabim, V'chamas. You're working in cheese, or you work in the milk factory, then you don't have this din. Dayish, my Dayish, Miyuchid, Dovashloi, Nigma, Melachta, Afkol, Dovashloi, Nigma, Melachta. Yotza, Aboida, B'Tamorim, V'amafri, B'Geroinis, V'ayayim, Mishikap, V'Hashem. These are all things that are not Nigma, Melachta. So you learn out from Daesh. For you learn out from Shor B'Dishoy. Ma Daesh miyuchad shlebol lezikas hamaisis. I've called the shlebol lezikas hamaisis. The whole list of things that we learn out from Shak and Shor B'Dishoy to Poyal. So now the Gemara says like this: 4 lines from the bottom. Siv, like Sachshim, Shor B'dishay. So this is the way to understand this Gemara is basically like the Afusas in Bava Kama. It's very similar to the Afusas. La Reizeh, Karezeh, is Chumas and Kulas. Not so easy to explain this mamish literally in the Lomdus from the Zach. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I'll say Afusas. Siv, like Sachshim, Shor B'dishay. Ainly Ela Shor B'tolish. B'dishay means what? You're plowing in the field. What is that? That's tolish. So the Sachshin Shor B'dishay, you're not permitted to close the mouth of the shor when he's doing a malacha b'tolish. V'adam b'mechubah. And adam b'mechubah means you have to allow the poil to work, just like you're not allowed to close the mouth of the shor when he works. The same thing, the adam b'mechubah. When a person is working b'melilois, that's also just the opposite. It's not a double tolish. It's double mechubah lekarka. Is Adam Mahu Shiyochel B'tolish. What's going to be a din by the poil? Is he allowed to eat when he's working B'tolish, not working on Melilas B'karka? What's going to be the din? What's the nafka if he's allowed to work when he's allowed to eat when he's working? What's the difference if he's working in the field which is B'chuba and B'tolish? So the Gemara learns it out from shor. Adam from shor. Ainly el shor B'tolish. Like Sachshah B'dishay is a tolish. But Adam B'mechuba because Melilas B'yidecha that's talking B'mechuba. Could a person eat from tolish, or do we say he's not allowed to eat? Straight melidus b'yidecha, that's only b'mechuba. So the Gemara, just like we say that a shor, which is not permitted to close the mouth, so it should be the same thing back and forth. And the one on the base, Shor b'lei Sachshem, vein Odom b'lei Sachshem. There's no lav in the Torah on a shor when you're working. You're not permitted to disbar the shor, not allowed the shor to eat. And if you are, you're on the lav in the Torah Sachshem over the shor. Ain't Odom b'lei Sachshem. The shtok on lav, the hammer would be the mama should let out one for the other. There's be a hekish from Daesh to Daesh. The Gemara is not elaborating here. We would be the havamid to say that there would be a lav in the Torah of leisachsem odom bi'achilosei, bipilosei when he's working. The Gemara doesn't explain that, but the Gemara's the inference is from the Gemara that you learn out one from the other. Punkta says the lav in the Torah leisachsem shor b'dishay, the lav in the Torah leisachsem odom b'melachtei. Okay, let me say the.
That's totally the rule of the
Yeah, but I'm just saying the same concept. You're learning out Daesh from Daesh. It does have a hekish as that. Zog the boss. No, but the Gemara would say that we learn out one from the other one. Ma adam shein oichel b'tolish oichel b'mechuba shor shu oichel b'tolish any din sheoichel b'mechuba. Ma kan b'lei sachshem afkan b'lei sachshem. I would see the sachshem even by an adam that are allowed in the Torah. Not to forbid him from eating. Talmud loyle sachshin shor b'dishay and atachoismai. There there's lav in the Torah by a shor. Avachoismai ad b'mechuba lekaka. Mechuba lekaka you could do it. Dafka b'tolish. So okay, let's see the Rashid. Phenomenal. Aleph ksiv like sachshin shor b'dishay. V'zeh ador b'tolish. B'dishay means ador b'tolish because from plowing. U'b'odem in sinuk ksiv behedye b'mechuba. How do we know an Adam is talking, a Poyel is talking when he works in a Kerem Riyacha, with a Mechuba, Kisave B'komas Riyacha, Ainly on the Shor B'tolish Adam Mechuba, Loch Yisiv, Adam, what's the Faket? Adam Ashi Yoichel B'tolish is an Adam who works B'tolish. Is he permitted to eat from the Tvur also, or whatever he's working on, but it's a Tolish? It's like the Monday. It's not the kind of Kal V'chomer, it's Kal V'chomer. It's just he's saying al siafusas. He's saying you have a kal v'chomer for what's kloimer. The loim seen exhibit adi the oichel b'mechuba. Harei yoichel b'tolish shor b'disha idach hatolish. Amid beis tamar loimer nasachshem shor b'disha kloimer. Ma tamar loimer shor dafka harei odem gam ken oichel hu b'tolish mikal v'chomer. Imagine can the chesed when he's working in tolish mikal v'chomer. Right from shor. And the lamed shor oiveru ola b'lei sachshem. Via shor. If you don't let the shor eat, there's a din like sachshem. Vein oiver odom beloy sachshem. A person is not going to be oiver beloy sachshem. In mineya balabais is a poy melechel ain't oiver belav. There's no lav. Shor ma sheyochel b'mechuba become a kal v'chomer. Ma odom The lame is in exhibit had you the oichel betolush, and the